they ever say, I said that?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is some amnesia during the course of the session, so they're not going to remember everything. But I do give them the suggestion that they will begin to remember more consciously, because they spent all those years with these hidden memories and bits and pieces, fragments of the experience. So it's not going to do them any good. It does not serve them if I give them suggestion that they're not going to remember until the next session. I give them that suggestion they're going to remember and keep on remembering. I ask them to keep a journal. I ask them to draw what they remember consciously and in the course of regression. That's all part of the therapy. And it all works together, and it's been very, very effective.
Okay, Ocean City, New Jersey. It's Richie's turn on Coast to Coast. Good morning, Richie.
Good morning, George. I've been trying to get a hold of you for a long time, so I can't believe that I was able to get through.
And I'm glad you held on there, too.
Yeah, I was involved. It's interesting. I was involved in a UFO incident that included, the Pentagon and the CIA, 2 Air Force brass from the Pentagon and 3 from the CIA. And last year you had I was listening to your show, I don't know when it was, but somebody brought up this incident in Denville, New Jersey. I was singing in this nightclub, and this UFO was so huge, it came over both sides of Route 46 and covered the nightclub I was singing in. And I'm up on stage, and people come running and screaming. I thought it was some kind of joke. I mean, horrified. Whoa. So I jumped off the stage, and people ran outside, and the thing took off. And the next night, I was up there singing, and then 2 Air Force brass from the Pentagon and CIA came in yelling, "Can we have your attention?" I stopped playing. So I stopped playing, and I said, "What kind of nonsense is this?" And they grabbed everybody that saw it and told them to keep their mouth shut and never talk about it. And that was, I don't know, it was like in the 1970s, could be from 1970 to 1973, I think. But the weirdest thing is, a week later, 3 of these people from the UFO came to my house.
Boy, the government would do anything, Richie, to keep you from singing, wouldn't they?
Yeah. No, I mean, 3 of the occupants of the UFO came to my house.
What?
And I used to brag that I was never afraid of anything, and I was so horrified. All I remember is falling back in my bed. There was 3 of them, 2 men and a woman, and it wasn't that they weren't that much different looking than us, to be honest with you, the ones that came to my house.
Were they, but could you tell that they were different?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But, I mean, back then, everybody would notice if they were walking among us. But today, with the people with their shaved heads and the way so many people look differently, you would look at them because they were really pale looking, but they really didn't look that much different from us. They actually had baby features, and from what I remember, but all I remember was falling back into my bed, and we had other incidents up there, Piccadilly Arsenal, Wanacue Reservoir. There was a lot of rash of sightings, and it was weird. I was doing some kind of experiments that I haven't done in years, and I don't know if that had anything to do with them coming, but you had somebody on your show last year talk about this incident, and then I ran into another person that was there that saw it, and I said, did I imagine that? And he said, no, I was there too, and I saw it. I said, no, it was real, but to try to get information about it, there's nothing. I tried to look it up on the computer, try to call you, and excuse me, I don't know what. I was so disgusted with myself because I was so horrified that I wish I could have found out what...
there might have been Stanton Friedman, Richie, who was the one who was talking about that. Yvonne, he brought up something interesting here about the way they looked, almost like us, not quite. Do the people that go under hypnotherapy describe what these entities look like?
They do eventually. It's difficult for someone to describe them in the beginning of their regression sessions because they begin to relive these experiences, and they're so terrified at first that so many times they don't want to even look at the aliens, the entities. and I used techniques to allow them to relive without the fear and the terror that they felt during the actual experience. Then they will begin to describe I ask them to describe the features and so forth, what their touch feels like. But it's interesting because we do come across these human-looking aliens, and what we termed, coined the term Nordics, because they were, tall and perfect looking, and
but they look like humans.
They look humans. Now, was it Richie? I was going to ask him what made them a little bit different. He said they didn't look quite like us. Not quite like.
Well, he said they had baby-like appearance. Their skin was lighter, almost pasty-looking. And they were bald.
And that's interesting because the ones that look human will actually be able to pass as, just someone walking.
They've got hair, everything.
Mm-hmm. Especially now we feel that.
Are their eyes bigger?
They're the ones that we call Nordics. Not exactly. They don't have the wraparound eyes, but it's something about their eyes that are different. I have in my book Chosen, the very last chapter is about a woman, and this was back in the 60s. I believe it was right after the Hills incident, where she came across someone who we could call Nordic, and she said it was something about his eyes that it scared her, but not because she felt threatened, but because she felt he was looking right through her.
Mm-hmm.
Could read her thoughts.
Let's go to Olympia, Washington. Greg's turn on Coast to Coast. Hey, Greg.
Hey, George. How you doing?
Okay. Glad you got in.
I have a question for Yvonne Smith.
She's ready to go.
All right. Where does she think these aliens come from, based on her study of the extraction of the 15 implants that she was talking about?
Can you come up with any kind of guess with that, Yvonne?
I couldn't. It was just a conversation and conference I had with Dr. Roger Lear, and he would have to. We have more to discuss about that, but I'm going to let Roger go ahead at some point and
defer to him.
And go through the research on it, because that's going to be very interesting, George.
All right, let's go to Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. Marie's with us on the international line. Go ahead,
Hi.
Marie. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to ask more about the guidance systems. Like in 1967, how would they be set? Would they be programmed? Are they magnetic?
Oh, they were all programmed, and and they were shielded. They had hard wires too.
But by hand or by a computer?
Everything was computerized then. It was 1967. They weren't great computers, but we had computers.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know, if it was computerized.
All right, you got it. Next up, truck driving in Nevada. Paul's turn, west of the Rockies. Hey, Paul, go ahead.
Hi, George. Hi, Robert and Yvonne.
Hi.
Hello.
Robert, I was in Warren Air Force Base between 73 and 76, and I was involved with two of those instances where the UFOs came down. One was on Foxtrot, and it was I was a SAT team leader at the time, and we were at the launch site, and it would not reset, it would not work, and we were told to stay there. The two lights that were above us moved around a few times for about an hour, then they left, and the launch site reset.
What did you think was going on, Paul?
Oh, we knew something was going on, but we didn't know what. And about a month and a half later, we were at hotel at the site, and I had top site duties, and my SAT team was out working the field, and we had a launch crew changeover at that time. It was about 6 or 7 o'clock at night in the winter, and we had 3 UFOs over the top of the site, of our launch site, and like he said, everything went down, and we had the launch crew there doing the exchange, changing from one crew to the next, and we were there, and we just looked at them, and, we thought, well, should we shoot at them? And it's like, well, if they can come that far, those M16 bullets probably won't do much.
Did you have to sign a security oath as well, Paul?
Well, we didn't fight anything, but they sure gave us a hard time, and OSI came and said, you didn't see it, you didn't see it, you didn't see it, don't talk about it. But we didn't sign anything because they didn't exist.
Man.
Interesting.
And it's just amazing. You hear about it from Montana, from Minot, North Dakota, and from, as we used to call it, Frankie Warren's Rocket Ranch. It was the only Air Force base in the world that had no runway.
All over the place. I mean, did anybody think for a moment that these might have been the Russians, the Soviets?
No, I don't think so. I think even with the SR-71 in construction or out at that time, nothing could make right-angle turns like those craft could.
No, that's a good point. That's a great story. Paul, thank you. Couple more calls. Let's go to Jane in Galveston, Texas. Hi, Jane. Go ahead.
Hey, fascinating program.
It is.
I was wondering, what do you think about this, and maybe you have experience in this in the regression aspects with any of the people. The pineal gland, once it's shut off, there's the loss of a conscious mind on the person that has had it shut off. Now I don't know if with mind control experiments and things like this. And it's been alleged that in some cases people have committed crimes that they were not aware.
Well, last Sunday, Dr. Joy Pugh talked about the pineal gland and that it was being used as an antenna and signals were being sent to it to have people do things.
So what my question is, are you ready for the deluge, which I think there are going to be quite a few people that'll be contacting you to testify on their behalf in courts of law that they could pass a lie detector that they did not do that crime, even though all the evidence shows that they did. And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Boy, that's interesting.
It'll be a paradox, to be sure. I'm not sure it would hold up in court, though. That's why we need Robert Shapiro back here to ask him that.
I would sure like to listen in on that one. I really can't offer anything myself on that. I know that the aliens, some of their implants very often are deep within, they place them deep within the nasal cavity near the brain, right around, I guess, where the pineal gland is located.
What's your gut tell you, though, Yvonne, that this is good stuff or bad stuff with these abductions?
I don't want to put it in a black and white box, but the thing is with everything that's happening to people, and it's so secretive, I'm just not sure where this is all going to lead. When everyone is programmed, so to speak, to one day all of a sudden click in and they'll know what they're supposed to be doing and for what reason.
Well, you would think that if a species got to the point of that kind of technology, that they would be benevolent and loving and perfect. I don't think they are.
Well, it's hard to say that they're totally benevolent. I just still don't. I feel with all my research, talking to so many people who've had these experiences, they're not in it for our own good.
That's a good point. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Great show with you and Robert Salas. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladesseur, Stephanie Smith, Ross Mitchell, George Knapp, Ian Punnett, and Art Bell, I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. It'll be a Friday. Until then, be safe, everyone.